Hi, I'm Jordan Laurel, and welcome to my show where we make the human experience magical through mental health, mindset, and manifestation. My story is one of radical transformation and rebirth. From depressed, disempowered, and dependent to flourishing within an incredible life I've created, this podcast is me sharing my process of overcoming and creating a magical human experience to help support you as you do the same. Tune in every Monday to feel empowered through stories, wisdom, and lots of super practical tips. Because I am proof you can change your entire life and manifest a life beyond your wildest dreams. Welcome to the Magical Human Experience Podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, Alyse.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you, especially with what you kind of focus on. When I saw kind of some of the key topics and questions that you touch on, I was like, oh my God, I want to talk about all of these. We'll see what we have time for today, but I am so interested in what you do. And why don't actually you start off, and just for everybody listening who maybe might not know your name or be as familiar with your work, would you be able to just kind of share from your perspective who you are, what you do, maybe even your journey of how you got into it? Start off there.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Alyse Bassine. I'm a spiritual mentor and breathwork practitioner. Well, I discovered breathwork when I was 19. So it's kind of been a journey for me through my whole life with breathwork. When I was 19, I was struggling a lot with anxiety and an eating disorder, and I found yoga, which led me to discover breathwork. And as soon as I discovered it, I just dove into it. In my early 20s, I took like 4 breathworker training programs, a teacher training. I was just studying with everybody that I could around breathwork. And then I started seeing clients and leading groups all in my early 20s. But I didn't have the full capacity to start my own business at that age. So I became a school counselor. I have my master's degree in counseling psychology. I was a school counselor for 10 years. And then fast forward to 2019, I had this knowing the whole time I was in my career as a school counselor. Like I was really good at it and I loved it, but I knew that I was supposed to be doing more. So in 2019, I just had this very strong nudge and I started working with a coach, and I immediately realized that it was time for me to start my business. And that just perfectly coincided with COVID. So I started my business at the end of 2019. And then in March, we all went home from school and I never went back.
Mm.
Once I got home, I had all of this time to really focus on my business and start growing it. And then I officially left my job at the end of December of 2020. And since January of 2021, I've been running my business full time. And it's just really grown into, beyond breath work. But breath work is kind of at the crux of everything, breath work and healing trauma. And then how it relates to growing your business, discovering your purpose, creating a business. And then I also have my breathwork, energetics, and trauma certification program. So I developed my own methodology called the Metamorphosis Method, where I teach you how to use breathwork and my other trauma tools to create long-lasting results with your clients. So
Mm.
yeah, it's just developed into so many things over the last few years. But the main thing I do is spiritual mentorship through the lens of breath work and trauma healing. And a lot of what I end up doing too is helping women grow their businesses, because most women that work with me either are starting a business or have a business or want to start a business. So that just kind of naturally happened. I think because I grew my business so fast, then people started asking me like, oh, I want to do what you did. Can you teach me? So I started doing that as well, but all kind of through more of like the healing and trauma lens, because that's just what I'm really good at. So it's always going to be, okay, what is the thing that's blocking you from growing in this way? And it's, I like strategy, but I'm much going to be more focused on the trauma and energetics piece, because that's just really my natural like zone of genius. And then I have a ton of experience with it as well. So yeah, that's kind of the short version of it.
Oh my goodness. I love all of this. There's so much I want to touch on. First, I just wanted to note, and I know we were saying this before we started recording about divine timing, but also just the way, just synchronicity when you are pursuing what lights you up, how things just like fall together, but also the things we've been through happening for a purpose. Like I've been through a lot of trauma, abuse, also had an eating disorder, a very severe eating disorder for about 6, 7 years. And it's wild looking back, like how all of that was really there to help me step into my purpose. Like if I hadn't gone through those things, I would not be the person I am today, doing what I'm doing today. And I am so happy, with who I am and what I'm doing. So I love hearing stories where the pain turns into purpose, because it's so beautiful and so just encouraging.
Yeah, absolutely. And even like the other pieces of the journey, like I have clients who are, still working at a job or working at a hospital or working at this or that. And I'm like, that's part of it. Like if I didn't have 10 years as a school counselor, I wouldn't understand trauma the way that I do. And I wouldn't have been able to develop my methodology without having that experience. So I think those things are so important too, because so many people are like, I just want to start a business and I want to make money now. And it's like, well, sometimes you kind of have to like walk this path. And that's all part of getting you to where you're meant to be.
Oh, 100%. I feel like that is something I've been really finally sinking into and letting myself feel a little more comfy in, is just relaxing into the divine timing of it all. Because it's so easy, especially if you're goal oriented or you have this dream that is connected to your purpose. You're like, I just want to be there helping people and doing the thing. But you're right. You're so right. Like, I'm so glad that everything I've been through and the universe didn't give me some of these things until recently, or some things I still don't have, because I wouldn't be ready. And I definitely wasn't ready for some of this, until I had it. So
Absolutely.
timing is everything. I also love that oh my goodness, trauma. I also have found, because I do a lot on manifestation, but I feel like it kind of is all summarized more. I've become this like very magnetic person where it's like, I think this, I want this, and like I attract it, or something even more aligned. And I was really sitting hard the last couple of months and thinking, like, what helped me so much? Because it's more than just following the steps. It really, for me, I think, has been the relationship I've built with myself, but also trauma healing has been so powerful. And I'd love if you could maybe share your experience with how trauma healing has helped you, and maybe also your clients, if you have any stories, just in becoming more of a magnetic person, and also calling in the wealth, having your purpose take off, just kind of how it's been so supportive and powerful for you and your clients.
Yeah, for sure. And, it's interesting because this is something that I myself didn't realize in the beginning either. And then when I reflected back on,
Mhm.
wow, like since, month one of me going full time in my business, I, started making 5 figures a month and it just kept going. Right. And I'm like, how did I do that so fast? Like what, because you do things, then you're like, well, let me reverse engineer this so I can teach it.
Yeah.
And for me, it was really my ability to move through the trauma and the stories, the ancestral trauma, the family trauma, and all of that stuff that I think comes up for people and can really make people feel so stuck or feel like they can't get out of the starting gates. And because of my experience and also what ended up becoming my methodology, I was able to move so quickly through a lot of that stuff. And that doesn't mean it wasn't challenging, by the way. It just means that I knew what was happening and I knew how to navigate it. And I also knew what kind of support I needed in order to move through it. Right. So that's what started happening for me in the beginning. And then, like I said, I reverse engineered it so that I could help my clients with it. But what ended up happening is I created my first group program called the Metamorphosis, which is kind of how my methodology was born. And when I created it, at first, I did not even realize that it was such a powerful way for people to heal trauma until people started to go through it. And
Mhm.
people started to go through the program. And not only were they clearing like these massive familial and ancestral patterns and programs and traumas, but everyone started to discover their purpose in this really deep way. And I was like, oh, wow, this is more than I thought it was, and noticing this direct correlation, like you're saying, between clearing your trauma and then discovering your purpose. And then your ability to create things and manifest just really comes online because you're
Mm.
no longer in this programming or you're no longer living in these stories, that aren't necessarily true or that limit you. And then it's so much easier for you to create. And that's what I saw happening for so many people, or for everyone really, who went through the metamorphosis. And everyone would, come in and they do all the work and they discover their purpose and then they'd start their own businesses. And I was like, okay, I really have something here. So that's when I created the certification, because I was like, I really need to teach other people how to do this, because to me, this is the most important work for people to do, just not only for themselves, but for the planet as a whole. So that's when I was like, I have to teach other people how to do this and really kind of like make this into a methodology. But that's really what I've seen, is when you dismantle these deeper ancestral and familial patterns, you dismantle, your relationship with your parents. And also, one of the big things that I focus on that I think is very important is what I call birth story, which is the circumstances while you were in the womb and the circumstances around your birth. Because similar to, like an astrology chart, your birth story is kind of like an energetic imprint that is imprinted on you when you come into the world. So I teach people how to dismantle that and any limiting stories or beliefs or traumas around that as well. So I think once you learn how to disentangle and dismantle these very fundamental imprints that are put on us, around our parents, our birth, our siblings, and any other, programming from school and society. Once we learn how to just strip all that away, then you're just left with who you really are and you feel easier to be that, So that's kind of what I just started to notice with all of my clients, and pretty much everybody who comes through that program will have that experience. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to take a long time either. And I think that's where the breath work comes in, because breath work has been such a powerful tool for me, and just moving through things quickly and shifting things quickly, because it goes beyond the mind and really moves things on an energetic and physiological level. So, and you don't always even need to know what it is. So that has been a really helpful piece in supporting people in moving through it quickly and not feeling like they have to relive every single thing that happened to them, because that's also not necessary. And I think that that's something that can deter people from wanting to dive into the deeper.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I want to dive more into breath work, but I want to just comment because I think you're going to find this fascinating. I'm curious also if you have anything come to mind immediately, but to help people understand just how impactful those things that we don't think are impactful are, like the childhood trauma, or like the fact that you said your birth story. So I was actually adopted at birth, and I just recently, through the help of friends, through me, half crying, half like telling them my triggers and what was coming up for me when I was in a triggered state, like they supported me through conversation, and I was able to come to this realization that, oh my goodness, like my abandonment wounding that is coming up in these very specific ways with men, it's probably coming from the fact that I was separated from my biological mother at birth. And wow, diving into that and doing some work around that has really helped me so much with some of these like abandonment wounding triggers that I had coming up that I thought I had done a lot of work surrounding. And I just
Oh yeah. The
pinpointed.
abandonment wound is a big one. I teach about this extensively in my certification. I could probably spend the rest of this episode talking about the abandonment wound, but I won't
Mm,
because I know we have a lot of other stuff to get to. But I will say there are very specific ways that this will impact the child, but especially if it happens like what you're talking about when you are like what I call pre-verbal, so under the age of like 3 or 4, it will create more of an energetic and physiological imprint versus a cognitive or verbal awareness, right? So that's probably why it wasn't something that necessarily came to your mind, because, we have this feeling of like, oh, well, I was a baby and I don't remember,
right.
but you do. It's just that you don't have a cognitive experience or thought around it. And it just serves as like this energetic imprint. But what I've seen with so many of my clients who have an abandonment wound like that, where a parent left them, is that they will recreate that situation in all of their relationships, not even just romantic relationships, but friendships or any kind of relationship, until they reconcile it. So, yes, that is a huge thing. And so much of what happened, during the time that we were developing in the womb and what those circumstances are, and then just like what circumstances we came into in the world will greatly impact just like, I call it kind of like the lens that you look at the world through. And it's just so important to understand what that is so that you can understand how you are unknowingly looking at the world in this way, right? For you, for example, it probably looked like on some level expecting to be abandoned, so you're creating that in your closest relationships, right? And stuff like that is very typical for people, not only just around abandonment but anything that has happened. So learning how to like dismantle that and being able to see like, oh, this is how I'm looking at things so that you can change it is such an important thing, because then you don't recreate those situations in all aspects of your life, not even just partnerships but like business and money, and it is pervasive to all of it. So, yeah, it's super important.
Yeah. And I think for me, I'm trying to be better about like sharing specific iterations because I think a lot of people don't realize like so much of their pain and struggle in their everyday life is coming from these things. It doesn't seem like it. It seems so much easier to just like blame it on something external or
Yes.
minimize it. But like, yeah, I mean, I was also constantly abandoning myself and
Yes.
constantly creating dynamics where other people were emotionally unavailable to me. Even if they maybe physically wouldn't leave, emotionally, they were like pretty much completely absent. There's, yeah, so much wounding and then so much of in your physical reality, in your relationships, especially how it plays out and is like painful and creating dynamics you really don't want. So yeah, this work is so, so powerful. And I'm really curious to hear because I've done a lot of healing modalities. I do a lot of EFT tapping. I've done a lot of just work on trauma and work with therapists and coaches and such. But I have kind of avoided breath work because it kind of is like this. And I think it's a lot of the people I've seen teaching it give this like very like yogi granola, completely averse to technology and trends. And I'm like a little fashionista. So I feel like I've been like, oh, I don't know. Is this like a thing? But again, kind of like just the universe does. I just keep having breath work coming up in just conversation or posts I'm seeing, and I'm like, okay, I think this is something I need to explore soon. So for maybe some other people who have been a little bit like standoffish to it or just haven't explored it, maybe they're completely neutral but are new. What has breath work done for you and for your clients? How does it serve you and support you and help you with, especially, I love that you said it helps you move through and process a lot of this stuff quickly.
Yeah. So I just want to say too, like, obviously there are different types of breath work, and there's a lot of stuff out there that doesn't resonate with me either. And I am very, like, I like to do things that are practical and give people results and aren't just like, oh, let's go on this journey. Cause it's like, okay, cool. Then what? Like, what results are we getting? You know what I mean?
I'm very
So,
results driven. And I also, I want to touch on this next, but I also felt like you were very different, especially with what you use it for, aside from trauma healing. But I'll let you finish this first.
okay, yeah. So, for me too, there's a lot of these other breathwork modalities out there that are more like forceful, like the 3-part breath or like Wim Hof, or like where it's kind of like feels like it's overwhelming and to me would give me too much anxiety. So the breath work that I've developed over time. So when I first started studying breath work, I learned what's called conscious connected breathing, which is just a simple breath in and out through the mouth. And it's a circle. So there's no space between the inhale and the exhale, but it's much more simple and gentle. So that was what I was trained in. And then over time, I've developed my own way of doing it, which is much more focused on working with the body instead of like forcing the body to do something, which to me never felt right, or it felt like it created more of a non balance in the body, which is not
Ooh,
something that was helpful for me.
I love that.
So my breath work is much more just dropping into the rhythm of the body, because the body actually has its own natural intelligence and wisdom. And if we give it the space and the container, it will do what needs to be done for what we need to heal at that time. And I've seen it over and
Mhm.
over and over again. I truly believe that. That's why when people say, I'm scared that something's going to come up that I can't handle, and that never happens. Like nothing is ever going to come up that you're not ready to deal with at that time. And when you're ready to shift something, it will shift. All you have to do is give your body this space to do it. So the breath work that I do is very gentle, and it's just about dropping into the body's natural rhythm. And you'll start to notice when you do it that after a while, you'll just notice that you're just breathing and you're not really thinking about it and it's just happening. So you kind of drop into this state where you're just breathing in and out and you're moving energy. And then the way that I do it is I also couple it with my channeling. So depending on the focus or intention of the breathwork session, I will just tap in and I will be guiding you in a way to help you release what you need to release, bring in whatever frequencies you need to bring in whatever energies you need to bring in, healing and all of that. And that just all kind of started happening naturally as I started working with people. I channel. So I just kind of tune in, and whatever comes through for what is supposed to happen at that time. So it's definitely a different thing than you've probably seen anywhere else. The main thing is that we're just creating the circumstances for the healing to occur. And I think that is what makes it different. But what I will say, the few things that are very important about why it works so well is two main things. One is that we're putting ourselves in the present moment in a very powerful way. And in the present moment, that's where you have access to your higher self. That's where you have access to the field of infinite possibilities, and that's where you have access to your channel, where you're really able to be in this experience of like where you manifest and where you create. So you're tapping into that regularly and you're creating a relationship with that higher aspect of you. And then the other piece of it is the breathwork gives you access to the subconscious mind. So this is incredibly important because we all know at this point that most of the results we have in our lives are a result of what our subconscious believes to be true about ourselves and the world. So when we access the subconscious, we immediately are able to notice, oh, maybe you have a memory or you have an awareness of a belief you have or a story you've been telling or something that happened that created you to relate to yourself and the world in this way. And then you can choose out of it, right? And then the breath work moves energy. So you're able to move the energy, integrate the energy, and process the emotions that are there just waiting to be processed. Because a lot of those subconscious beliefs that we have are a result of trauma, meaning that an experience happened that was overwhelming to us, so we couldn't fully process it. So it's just kind of sitting there waiting to be processed, right? So when we use the breath, it gives us the opportunity to move that emotional energy and process it so it can dissipate. So it's not sitting there creating this reality that we don't want to create, so to speak. To me, that's like some of the main reasons why it works so quickly. And also, we do have the opportunity to bypass the thinking mind so that we can kind of go beyond what is in our current consciousness to what's underneath and access this deeper level of awareness very quickly. So yeah, that's why I think it moves things so quick and it gives you such momentum because you're kind of bypassing figuring things out and you're just getting to what needs to move, what needs to change, and moving through it quickly.
Okay. I love that. So, and I was wondering if it was similar kind of for how I've used EFT, where it tends to neutralize the trigger then, but because of that, it helps you just become more of a clear channel.
Mhm.
I know for me sometimes, and this is why I was like considering getting more into it, sometimes the tapping doesn't regulate my nervous system enough. Whereas I can see how breath work, you're really like connecting deeply with your body and regulating yourself.
Yes. Yeah, and you really get into, like, that parasympathetic
Mm.
part of your nervous system where you're completely, like, able to receive and relax. It just puts you there pretty quickly. So, it is good in that way as well, where it's really regulating and relaxing your nervous system.
I love that. Yeah. And this stuff's, so powerful with just your day to day life. We don't realize, and I'm sure you know this from your experience, but you probably see this in clients. Like, we don't realize how these limiting beliefs from trauma we've had in the past come up every single day when we're like, even if it's just like talking to a new client or a new potential person you're going to go on a date with, like what happened to you in the past comes up and it's like, oh, but this, oh, but that. And then you get dysregulated and then you like self-sabotage. So this stuff is so powerful. So I'm really excited to dive more into breath work here. But one of the reasons that you really excited me was the fact that you do tie it to channeling. And it sounds like from what I was hearing on your podcast, you don't just tie it into channeling for clients, you actually tie it into channeling for yourself. And it was one of the things that I think you said had helped you also with
Mhm.
your success and your direction with your business. I
Yep.
want to go into that, but I would love if you're open to it to maybe just also explaining what channeling means to you. And maybe I know it can sound a little woo woo, but it's so true. And I think personally, I've been exploring this with myself because I did an Akashic Records hypnosis session about a year ago.
Mm.
And the first thing in my journey that I saw or was is I was just like this purple orb. When we were chatting after the session, she was like, yeah, I think like you just have wisdom, which is, I guess, a little bit claircognizance. And I
Mhm.
really felt that in my life where I just get hits and downloads, whether it's for me, like I literally last January, I remember the night I couldn't sleep. I knew and I'd known for a while the relationship wasn't serving me, but my brain or higher self, whatever, was literally screaming at me, if you do not leave this relationship, you will not go where you are meant to go. And I was like, damn, our lease doesn't end for like 8 more months. We really have to do this now. But like with myself and then also with like friends and clients, I'll kind of get these hits where I'm just like, this is not serving you, or you really need to explore this or whatever. So I've always known I kind of just know things. And I don't know, I'm kind of like, I know some of it's my higher self, but like, how is that gut? Is it intuition? Is it something else? Like, how would you describe channeling and psychic abilities and intuition and all
Yeah.
that
Okay. So,
stuff?
I feel that it's all the same, but it's like different as well. So I do think your intuition, like I just wrote a post recently on the difference between intuition and channeling, which it's
Ooh.
the same, but with channeling, I feel like it's different because you're going deeper than just like trusting a feeling. Like I feel like your intuition is you're getting a feeling, you're getting a knowing, and you're going with it. Whereas channeling, we're going deeper, we're developing the relationship more. So
Mm.
the way that I see channeling and the way that I've experienced it for myself is it's almost like I'm tuning into a radio station, like I'm tuning into a higher frequency. Essentially, if I am asking a question or I'm wanting to get more information about something, it's like I'm tapping into this higher frequency of information that feels like it's existing at this higher place, this higher level of consciousness than just my human. It's going beyond my logical mind and it's just tapping into this higher awareness, this higher frequency. And you can tell when you get the information that it's a higher perspective, right? It's not just me thinking of an answer, it has a higher frequency to it. So that's how I describe it. Obviously, there's so many people who are like, I'm channeling this, I'm channeling that, I'm tapping into, this, whatever. And I've explored a lot of that with myself. And I've read the Akashic Records and I've channeled different types of beings and different energies. And the conclusion that I've really come to in all of this is that it's all just other aspects of me. And
Mm.
it's all like other aspects of me that are existing in other dimensions or other realms. And then it became less important for me to really even name it because I know that I'm just able to tap into this higher frequency. So that's how I would describe it for myself. And then, I started using it a lot in the beginning of my business just as transmissions for my clients. And I would get a lot of these transmissions around, money or, the new way of living on the earth or like different like codes for living in the quantum and stuff like that. And then it started developing more where I started utilizing it a lot for my business. And I would get just stuff dropping in around like a new program, new offers, like what I was going to be teaching, how I was going to be talking about it. And then I was like, wow, I'm really onto something here. And I want to teach people how to channel for their business because to me, this is the way to move forward with business. It's so much less about, doing this person's formula or this person's template, or it's obviously helpful to learn from other people. But also, I feel like when you have your own business, you have to be innovating in a way that really honors you and your energy and also showcases your genius, right? Because everyone has something different to offer. So being able to tap into that for your business to me was like kind of the next level of this. So that's kind of where I'm going with it now. But it was all because I just reverse engineered what I had been doing, with breath work for so long. And then eventually I didn't really need breath work to tap into it, although that's where it originated, right? Because I had done breath work for so long, I was easily able to tap into this higher frequency and receive information and higher perspectives and higher understandings, for myself, for my clients, and just how to move forward in a way that was really honoring who I am and what I'm meant to do. Hopefully that answered all your questions.
Yeah, no, that was great. And I understand what you're saying a bit because I feel like for me, it started with meditation. And it's kind of like that being able to be in that regulated state, nervous system wise, but then also being able to access your higher consciousness, like tune out the external and also slow down that conscious mind that's like oftentimes spinning and, thinking about 10 million things at once, including what the next person's going to think of me and what I'm going to eat and all that. But yeah, as I started doing that more and more, it's like I feel like I get these downloads a lot more and it's a lot
Mhm.
easier. But also because I've done a lot of trauma healing work. And I feel like that in general, and I love you use this term, a clear channel. I feel like it's made me this clear channel where I am mostly regulated and I am open and able to receive that higher self or divine guidance, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, totally. And I think that the great part about using breath work is that it will clear, whatever doubts you have or worries you have or whatever might be coming up that is kind of blocking you from fully receiving it. It helps to move that stuff along so that you can more easily access your channels. There's so many different ways to utilize it. And I think that especially right now, there's so much information that is constantly coming at us at all times that I feel like we have to be able to just shut that all down and just listen to ourselves. And even, to make a decision about where to put your energy or invest your money or how to grow your business if you do want to work with somebody. But again, there's like so much out there, it can be overwhelming. So to be able to tap into yourself and feel really confident and led from this higher place of how you're moving forward and what decisions you're making, it just makes such a difference. And it makes you kind of able to just trust yourself and move in a very different way through life where you kind of have this larger perspective and larger sense of knowing of why things are unfolding the way that they are instead of kind of constantly feeling like, why is this happening to me? kind of a thing, It's a paradigm shift for sure in that way.
Oh, 100%. Being able to tune inward, learning how to tune inward instead of constantly outsourcing and looking externally is such a huge way to build trust with yourself. And the way that makes you so magnetic because you're just
Yeah.
operating from a place of like, what's right for me, authenticity, alignment, stability within yourself. Like it just is such a different way of living that I didn't even learn until the last like year or two, and it has changed my entire life. So yeah, it's huge to be able to do this, but you're right. You really have to create that time and space to learn how to tune inward and hear yourself because most of us are listening to the noise all the time.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's hard to like tune out the noise completely. It's like pretty much impossible. So there just to have something to counteract that and just to be able to really just have that relationship with yourself and place value on the information that you're receiving. It also creates a level of confidence and worthiness that does create magnetism, like you said.
Oh my goodness. Would
Yeah.
you be open to sharing a small exercise maybe we can even do it together that people can do if they just want to dip their toe in and be like, okay, let me give this a try.
Well, I can show you how to do the breath work that I teach. And then also you can download my breath work for free if you go to my
Oh
website and I'll
wow.
I'll tell you the link for that and everything. But I
Cool.
can show you how to do the breath work and like even if you just do, for people that are listening, even if you just do like 10 breaths like this, you will notice immediately that it changes your energy. So I'll just show you how to do it and then we can do like, 5 of them or something, but it's literally just breathing in and out through your mouth in a circular pattern with no space between the inhale and the exhale.
Okay.
So when you breathe, you just want to think about, like, again, it's not about forcing, it's just about like allowing the breath to move in and out of the body. So this is what it looks like. So super simple, right? We can try like 5 of them, and
Okay.
that can be a great place for people to start, especially if you haven't done breath work before. So if you just want to close your eyes, and
And
then again, you're just relaxing the throat, relaxing the jaw, and breathing in and out through your mouth. So inhale and exhale, and just do 5 of those.
yeah, I definitely feel more zen. It slows your
Yeah.
brain down a
And
little bit.
the other thing that you'll notice, and I notice this for me, especially because I've been doing it for so long, you'll get so many creative ideas too. Like I get so many creative ideas when I'm breathing. I have to stop a lot and like write things down because I'll get a lot of ideas like and a lot of them will be for my business because I feel like my business is my creative outlet. So it'll be a lot of like content ideas or like different ways to position things or talk about things or different things I want to offer, or just like anything creative that has to do with like what I teach and what I offer, I feel like will come through so strong when I'm breathing because I'm just like giving it the space,
Mhm.
to come through. And it happens so organically. It's pretty cool.
It's probably because you're slowing your brain waves start to slow down as you slow down or calm down. And alpha, we're usually in beta or high beta, right? So like you're then going into alpha, which is that like creative flow state.
Yeah.
Because I noticed
Yeah.
from meditation, but so this is just a quicker way though for me to access that. I love this.
Yeah, it is pretty quick, I will say, because I would say even if you just do it for like between 5 and 10 minutes, you'll definitely notice a change or you'll notice something happening for sure.
I love this. And then you have breath work that people can download. I guess now,
Mhm.
as we're wrapping up here, how can people find you? What are different ways they can work with you? I will obviously, guys, put everything in the show notes for easy access. But yeah, I'd love for you to maybe just
Yeah. So, well, let's see. You can find me on Instagram at Alyse_breathes. And then I also have a podcast called Reclaiming Consciousness, and I share a lot of teachings on there. I do have guests, but a lot of it is my teachings as well. And then, I'm on Facebook. You can find me there too, or my website, AlyseBreathes.com. And you can download it's called Breathwork for Financial Freedom. You can download it there on my website or on my Instagram, either place you can find it. And then there are a lot of ways to work with me. The best way, though, I have a membership where you get access to pretty much all of my teachings, all of my programs, all of my master classes that are really geared towards helping you clear trauma, just spiritual and energetic development, and then also clearing money stories and upping your money game. So it's kind of broken into 3 categories, but it's all of my programs and teachings around all of that stuff. There's usually 1 or 2 things happening every month, so it's kind of a great way to just, like, be in my world and learn from me and get all of my teachings, and that's called the Mothership. So that's a great place to start, but I would definitely say start with trying the breath work, and then, people always reach out to me and be like, "Oh my god, I did that breath work session and all this stuff happened, and, like, now what do I do next, or how do I move forward?" So I always say the Mothership. And you can also do all the programs in the Mothership, you can also do them à la carte. So you can always try something and then you can come into the Mothership after that if you want to. So I don't know when this is going to be coming out, but I have a few programs coming up around money. I do one about past lives and money and
Mm.
like how to clear the archetypal energies that come up around money when you start a business, which is a lot of past life stuff like being seen and like the fear of being ostracized, all that stuff. I show you how to clear that. So there's a lot of fun stuff coming up, but you can check it out on my website because I don't know exactly what's going to be happening when this is coming out.
Well, amazing. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I am sure everybody listening is going to get a lot out of it too. But I appreciate your time, and it was such a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.